Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Sunday message edition of A Different View. Hope y'all are doing good out there. Hope you're enjoying Sunday afternoon. It's always a nice, Sunday's always a nice day. You get a chance to be with family, whether or not you can stand to be around certain family members or not. And I do apologize, ladies and gents, if my voice sounds a little weird, a bit under the weather. But we recoup and recover just like anyone else. Same thing that happens as the seasons change. Speaking of which, shout out to fall, the fall season. And of course, we're in the month of October here. So, welcome October and all of the fun that happens with October as we start to get toward the end of the year here. And everybody gets in the happy-go-lucky buying season and buying some things and getting into some areas of some stuff that's not too healthy. Some areas that are healthy, but some that are not. Which I do caution. Just a little side note here, and this is just going to be me off the cuff. Of course, this is the Sunday edition. We're not going to go into too many Bible verses and belief or religious bases, which is a big difference between belief and religious-based things, which I will get into when we do the Halloween one. A couple big ones coming up here as far as podcast episodes here on A Different View. One will definitely be Columbus Day. I think it's necessary to speak some things as far as Columbus Day goes here in a couple of days. And of course, you got Halloween, and then into next month there with Election Day and Veterans Day and Thanksgiving. So definitely stay tuned, ladies and gents. Pass the word around to your friends, church members. Let them know, because again, we don't do things here to bash folks. We do respect people's different views, but a lot of these things on these subjects that we kind of get confused here, hopefully I can shed some light here just to help folks see a different view on things. So when it comes to I'll use Columbus Day as a little bit of a platform, and we'll get further into it. Of course, September passed, the big holiday in September is Labor Day. Of course, also part of it dealing with National Hispanic Heritage Month. I think there is something that we should be on guard about, because again, many of these things get twisted, and then we start living life based out of the twisted thoughts that we create reality on they're actually very dangerous. We really do need to start focusing in on those that are helping. And this actually bears light when it comes to these holiday seasons, because everybody's going to these stores, and of course this highlights retail. And not just retail, also people get sick this time of year, like myself, where you get your little colds and this, that, and the other. So, and not so much the doctors, which again, the doctors need to be, without them, we're not getting certain help that we need. But this is more or less to the workers. So your nurses, your greeters at these different stores, cashiers, all that kind of thing, right? So they're there to help, and we're not talking about the folks who, are just rude to be rude. We're not talking about that. But people who are there trying to uphold rules that companies give. I think many times the average consumer, if you will, is so blinded by what is put in front of them that they really don't take the time to kind of disassociate from the world they kind of hamster wheel around, just running around in the same old place, to see how much damage that they cause. When you sit there and talk about how, people come into businesses or paying folks' wages, a lot of those things get thrown around. You start to see a lot of people's elite, if you will, privileged, a lot of these different words that we use. You start to see, basically, really, it is high levels of disrespect. if we're being honest with each other. And I think that's the problem, is that humanity, and specifically speaking, when you talk about belief, the idea as life kind of, as we know it, draws to a close here, excuse me, the idea that folks just stop caring. People just stop being respectful of folks. This really has nothing to do with who's better than the other person. It is seeds of disrespect sown into the human psyche that people do not, that have grown into big trees, if you will, that people have not taken the time to get their mental chainsaws and axes and start cutting down and uprooting such horrible ways of viewing and looking at people. A lot of this has nothing to do with who's better than. We all in varying degrees. You know, again, the Bible talks about how there's many parts but one body. We all got different functions. None better than the other, because it all goes to one source. All comes from one source. And we have to get away from this idea of who's better than who, or who's helping support who. The truth is, we all help the other. And, you know, speaking on subjects, when you get into stuff like this, you would assume over time, because there's patterns to this, you would assume over time people would realize that one group of people feeds into the next. And when you go and you work and you try to, and people don't admit to it, but when you work to hurt someone else, you hurt yourself, in regards to the standpoint of, when you eliminate that one group of people, whether you assume that they're holding you back from certain money you should have and all that kind of thing, what's left? Especially if we're all supposed to help each other, if we all as a society feed off of each other, then when you're in a store buying something from someone, a suit, tie, pants, sweat jacket, Halloween candy, Thanksgiving turkey, gifts for Christmas, doesn't matter what it is, at the end of the day, each one feeds into the next. And I think that's what we get away from by being duped by this greedy thought process that has created this system of operation that we do today, which is why it's important to rethink what's gone on here, because we don't realize really. And it's easy to get caught up in it. Let me be clear. Nobody is. I am just as culpable in it as anybody else is. And I think that's the problem. Is everybody kind of tries to put the hands off to it, like, oh, that's not me. You know, oh, I'm a really nice person. That couldn't be me. You hear that a lot with people when they have issues. You know, oh, that's just that person's personality. When the truth is, it's like those folks in your family that are basically pedophiles, but we don't say it that way. You know, they or in a relationship where you got abuse going on, and you got the person sitting there knocking somebody around and hurting people and whatnot, hurting the wife, you know, kicking the kids, doing all that kind of stuff, hurting animals, because that's also in this, you know. And it's just like, oh, that's just that person's personality. No, people need help. In reality, and on top of that kind of thing, not only do they need help, it needs to be called out as wrong. We have to stop having a mentality where it's okay to be abusive to people, because that's what it comes down to. It is not okay. It is not okay. And we as a people who see these things, who know these things, we need to make it well known that there are others of us out here and band together as such. To bring balance, because that's the problem. For too long, even when you look into, again, like I was talking about at the beginning of this episode here, Labor Day and such, where it's where at one point it was okay, long work hours were okay, low pay was okay. People who had the influence to change it without doing it legally refused to do so. They had to be forced to do so, and they did through the courage of men and women who stood up for themselves. Ladies and gents, I think there's no other way of saying it, but if you want to change a lot of this stuff going on today, we have to make it known. This is not a hateful thing. This is not an against another person. This is solely protection for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, this is about a service given and where respect is supposed to be such. Let me say it this way. Most of the, and be quite frank, it is a bottle baby mentality. It is a, you've heard me use the word disrespectful. It is an immature mentality to assume because you have $40,000 that you sit on a year or whatever it is, that it's okay to go into stores and treat people any old way. So this is why I've been saying for the last couple of episodes, ladies and gents, that the idea we need to begin to mobilize in a way to protect ourselves. I think it's folly to look around and see how there are laws, and this will play into the election day episode when I get there, but it's folly to just sit there and say, hey, you know, these certain laws were made up for these people, for this, for their protections, and so on and so forth. I believe it is folly to just say, hey, well, you know, Labor Day was made to talk about the workers and such, and this, that, and the other. I think, and especially with the different strikes that have come up over time, not even, in which we should pay attention to the ones that just happened here, like the one with the actors and writers strike that just ended here, which shout out to the writers. Again, you got your actors and actresses making money, so do the people who write the scripts, and not just the high profile ones that we all know about, that we see roll through the credits at the end of TV shows and movies. We mean everybody. We mean the rookies, everybody. Again, this life is to be shared. And I think people have been duped by greed to believe the only way life can be lived is how you currently see it. I'm here today to tell y'all, folks, in no uncertain terms, life can be lived in a very vivacious, happy, satisfied way if we get away from how we currently look at life. There's some serious changes that need to be made that will benefit life altogether. Again, if we work on trying to X off one group of people, in reality, if society is, and very much so, life is built in a communal type of thought process, just the same as it is individual. So that's just something to keep in mind there. You know, let's start treating the people that are helping us and providing services to us better than we have in the past. Kind of break away from the thoughts that we've been told that this is how you're supposed to be in a store. You know, there's a difference between truly being not appreciated when you go into a store, being disrespected when you go into a store. I'm speaking as far as from a consumer's perspective. And we all have seen different scenarios where that happens. Again, we're not talking about those kinds of scenarios where you need to, you know, write your surveys and do things of that nature to bring light to what's going on. Because you got to understand, on the other side, a lot of these greedy companies are using that kind of stuff to hurt the workers that are helping consumers on a daily basis. So you have to be careful. Some of it is being used to make improvements in businesses, but very few. If that was the case, surveys have been going on way before the ones that get printed on the bottom of receipts. And everything you see today, I dare say, is a snail pace of improvement. A lot of times you hear people talk about how far we've come as a people. I think another one of many misnomers, that's one, because if you're telling me how far we've come as a people is legally recognizing intercultural marriage, legally recognizing that people of various cultures can all drink from the same water fountain, I think that's setting the bar really low. I think that's the base requirement, if you will. I think many people, again, if we're being honest with ourselves, that is the base requirement. It shouldn't even been an issue to begin with. So to then therefore say we have come so far, and I apologize, guys, if this comes across very poignant or very abrupt, if you will. But again, life is not going to get improved with us dancing through the tulips and dancing around subjects. We have to speak to the wrong and call it as such if we're going to do better. You know, the idea, speaking on the Sunday message, you got the fall of humans, which is much so, again, everybody likes to put the woman under the bus here. But the truth is that story is there because the Creator wants us to know, hey, this was a collaborative thing. And I'm not even going into the whole, which is very much so a sexist-based thing. People, Christians don't want to acknowledge it that way and stuff like that. But and I'll get into this when Valentine's Day rolls around. The idea of this hierarchical kind of thing in relationships is quite damaging. At the end of the day, it's bad for people to be alone, and teamwork is what's necessary. The first thing comes out of Adam's mouth when God is questioning him about what's going on is complaining about the help. And that's not to say, ladies, for those who are listening on here, that's not to say y'all are help. Let me be very clear. God's not just running around creating help. The idea here is that those who help each other, because in truth, if it's a team, both are on an equal footing. And I think when you deal with a sexist thing, that's where it becomes dangerous, to the standpoint of, well, no, it's just a male thing. Women are just there in the background. And God does not make up society that way. People do that. God does not. Both are seen on an equal footing, which is why when everything happened, as far as judgment was concerned, it was done equally, because both were in the wrong. You can't go after temporary goods down here at the cost of your relationship, at the cost of people in general, and assume that the already woven in consequences or rewards won't activate, because they do. And I'll get into a lot of that type of stuff during the Halloween episode, because spirituality and stuff like that, we need to start putting it to bed when it comes to Halloween. Too many predisposed things. It's okay to keep talking about the Celts and all the quote unquote demonic things going on there, and people are not recognizing spirituality as it is, because they don't understand it that much. So again, when it comes down to respect for people, the idea that, no, it's the help's fault. No, everybody is at play here. So you can't just going around just kicking the help in the so-called you-know-what. And those who are the employer or boss just kind of like, yeah, we're kind of wrong, but it's not really that bad. That is the type of mentality that got Adam judged by God. And see, again, we're talking about these types of thought processes that people have get even worse when you deal from a Christian standpoint or from a belief standpoint, because again, goodness, peace, respect, through all the different religions and beliefs in the world is still a thing. And I think people, because of greed, because of this pseudo-elite mentality that's been sown into humanity, people have been duped, and they're actually doing damage to themselves. The more time you waste making fun of the help and firing help and doing all that kind of stuff, the slower you accelerate your getting help and making money. Because again, the boss cannot do it their own, just like the workers cannot do it their own. It's a collaborative thing. And the quicker we start realizing that we're more a team instead of a bunch of individuals all over the place, the better this gets. And the only way that part gets better is by truly recognizing the help, quote unquote, properly. Those who are workers who give of their families and give of their life to work at a place to make money, which is not even close to where they should be paid. And this is why, ladies and gents, we need to stand up as workers. Those who are legal aids, financial backers, got to get on board here, because this is how balance is made. This is not against those who make a lot of money, who lobby for certain things in society and stuff like that. We're talking about better balance here. We're talking about looking out for each other individually, so that would mean separately as cultures, and together as a collective human race. It's time to start supporting each other, looking out for each other, having more respect for each other than we've had, and putting an end to a lot of this silliness so that we can live better lives. So that's what I got for today. ladies and gents, and again, stay tuned. We'll get into all these topics more as we go along. And as always, look to find the beauty in a different view.